What's up, guys? It's Bart Hanson for CrushLivePoker.com, and I am going to go over a big bluff that I made on the Live at the Bike ante game from a few weeks ago. Everybody loves big bluffs, and this was probably one of the bigger ones that I've run in quite some time. It ended up being over a $10,000 pot. If anyone hasn't seen this ante game, it is really something. It's actually a 5-5 game with a $5 ante, but there are many multiple straddles. The open size is usually to about 80 to 100, so it sort of plays like a 15-30 no limit, and the stacks get very, very deep. In this particular hand, I was actually $9,000 effective with the two villains in the hand, and the hand actually starts off with a button straddle from Gil, who's going to be the primary opponent in this particular hand in seat 1. And we have seat 2 and seat 3 actually putting money in blind. They said, okay, we're going to call blind, something that's just not that uncommon in this game. It really is a great game. Gets over to me, obviously, and I pick up a pretty good hand to raise with in Jack 10 of diamonds. And I see all the dead money out there, so I decided to make it 7x to about $350. I get a call on the button from Gil, and I get a call from Eli, who had sort of put in a blind call pre-flop. Now, if you've ever watched these games before, these two guys don't like to fold all that much. Running a big bluff against them and trying to maybe bluff them off a top pair usually isn't going to be the wisest decision that you could make.
Suited gets calls in two spots, Gil and Eli. Ace 5-4 rainbow flop. Eli with bottom pair and a gutter, Gil with top pair. Bart has a backdoor flush draw.
He's like a killer and he's not even fun.
450.
450. About 1/3 pot size bet.
So Bart deciding to c-bet with some backdoor draws, three ways. Both players quickly calling.
But anyways, obviously we see the flop and we see it three ways. And here, you know, you look at this and obviously I've missed this particular board, but I do have a backdoor straight draw and a flush draw with Jack 10 of diamonds. I figure I can bet here and I can get a lot of better hands actually to fold. Some offsuit broadways, things like that. You know, maybe even occasionally a pair might fold, giving me credit. I had played pretty snug on this particular night. Snug being like maybe playing 28% of my hands, being the tightest person at the table. That's how loose the game was. So obviously I decided to actually go ahead and bet. And I bet about $450, which is about right around 1/3 the size of the pot, something like that, a little over 1/3 the size of the pot. And I wasn't very pleased when both players obviously called me on the button and also Eli in the big blind. Now, I will say, however, sometimes this can be actually a good thing if you are planning to run a multi-street bluff and fire multiple barrels at the pot. And the reason why that is because you can put a lot of pressure on the player in the middle. In this case, this is the button, Gil, because if I fire the turn, he still has to worry about Eli behind him in the big blind. So it's a little bit different than if I had just fired the flop and Gil had called. He has position on me and I fire turn. He's heads up. He doesn't have to worry about anybody behind him. But here, Eli is still yet to act. So he sort of has to play tighter if I make a turn barrel. And for Eli, too, sort of the same thing. I mean, he's not going to be squeezed in the middle, but the fact that I'm firing into two people if I do bet the turn looks very, very strong. Now, if you want to be balanced in how you basically sort of form your multiple street or multi-street barrels, you want to do it when you pick up equity. Now, I knew that these guys were very, very loose. They could easily be calling me with like a pair of fours, pair of fives, something like that. You know, if I pick up like a king or a queen here, I could certainly fire again as I pick up a straight draw. And it's obviously another overcard to what is second pair. So the way that I would basically structure this, whether or not I was going to bet the turn, is, okay, if I, get a backdoor flush card like a diamond that doesn't probably put out like a one-liner to a straight, I'll fire that. And if I pick up like a Broadway draw, like a queen or a king, I'll fire that.
It's a dry board here.
Wow,
Queen
he
of diamonds on the
turns
turn.
Jim.
So Bart picks up all the draws. He picks up a gut shot and a flush draw.
Well, what's one of the best, cards that you can basically pick out of the deck for me? How about Broadway and a diamond? So in this particular case here, obviously I pick up a combo draw here with the Queen of Diamonds coming on the turn. The pot is just about 2,400, and I've actually been experimenting with this play quite a bit recently. I actually decided to go for a slight overbet on the turn. I thought that it would look very, very strong. Again, I'm not usually going to be in the nature of trying to bluff Gil off of, a weak ace or something like that, but I could maybe even see him folding a weak ace in the spot with Eli behind him. I decided to make it 2,600. It's also interesting, too, for the stack sizes because this small overbet will leave a nice little 2/3 pot size bet left at the end if for some reason I brick out, depending on what happens. So, occasionally you definitely have to watch your stack sizes because if the stack sizes are a little bit shallower, you can still overbet. But normally what you would want to do is overbet the turn and then give up on the river, basically. You don't want to go in for 1/4 of the size of the pot when the guy's not going to fold. I thought this one was sort of interesting where I was like, okay, well, I could have 2x pot it and then I wouldn't have had any money left to bluff the river, or I can still make an overbet and still have money left to bluff.
See if he continues to run this bluff.
He also has the strongest range here, pretty much. Still could have aces. Ace, queen.
Should have ace queen. He might even have queens. We don't know exactly what he does with that three-ways. Probably checks it back.
Still could have 5s and 4s as well.
Probably not with the 3-bet pre-flop.
Oh, he 3-bet.
3-bet pre-flop. But he could have ace-5 suited and ace-4 suited as well. So ace-5, ace-4 suited, ace-queen often suited, aces, queens. Maybe not queens. Depends if he decides to c-bet his whole range three-ways on this flop or not.
2,600 to go.
And that's a big bet. Over half pot. Oh, wow. Is that over full pot? I believe this was a pot-sized bet from Bart on the turn.
It was.
He actually bet over pot on the turn.
And look at Eli, doesn't even want to give it up. He figures he has some pot odds here.
No, it's not like that. No. You know who really scares me?
So at this point, after Gil calls, obviously, once again, I'm pretty certain that he has an ace. I will say that I have played a fair amount with Gil, though, too. I think that if he had like a hand like ace-queen, if he had flopped a set and decided to slow play it, if he had flopped a straight with like deuce-3, we would hear from him now. Also, too, if he flopped 2-pair on the flop, we probably would have heard from him. So I do think that he has a single-paired ace here most of the time. So I'm just sort of praying that, obviously, I'm going to improve.
Gil has to fade a diamond and or a king.
7 of hearts on the river. Bart does miss.
Brick City.
Will he go for it? Gil has about 2/3 of a pot-sized bet left in his stack.
When I don't improve here, I just looked at this sort of as a spot where my hand looks so strong by basically raising it up to 7 times pre-flop, betting into 2 people on the flop, over-betting the turn into 2 people, and now if I followed up with an all-in at the end, I might just get him to fold a weak ace. Obviously, I'm praying that he doesn't run into 2-pair here at the end with aces up, but as long as that happens, and of course, there's less of a chance that he runs into aces up when the last card comes out. When the 7 comes out, there's less ace-7s that obviously he can have. I have absolutely no showdown value whatsoever. And, you know, starting off with $9,000, you know, to put a guy basically, you know, to test him for his stack to make a huge call with just ace 8 when I'm sort of the snuggest player at the table. Is he going to put in his full $9,000? I don't really make these bluffs all that often, but once in a while, I think there's a good time to do it.
And Bart is effectively, I believe, at the bottom of his range unless he has 8-9 of diamonds here. Or 8-9 of spades. 8-9 of hearts. And he goes all in.
Wow.
Bart goes all in, and he's trying to get Gil to fold an ace. What a last hand of the night.
Wow. And he does go for it. This is a 2/3 pot size shove. Triple barrel. Bet the flop with some backdoors. Picked up his equity on the turn. And is going to go ahead and triple barrel it off. He is representing ace queen, ace 5, ace 4, aces, maybe queens, ace. I'm not sure many other hands than that. Don't think he would take this line with ace king, but he could. Probably a little bit too strong for ace king.
This is a very tough spot for Gil.
He could also have 5-4 suited perhaps here. I think this would be a reasonable line with 5-4.
Bart has told a very good story here, Dan. He said, I had it pre-flop, and he said, I've had it every street.
It's like, why don't you raise it there? What are you doing? Check calling with like A7.
As far as I can see, your only flaw.
Gil heavily in the tank. Very tough spot with one pair.
These guys know Bart plays solid too.
He's got his spidey senses on.
What are you talking about? Because I'm not one good night.
He says, can this be the time that one time Bluff has bluffed on the show? That one time, Bart's played very solid. Bart's very capable. And he gives it up. Bart goes for it and takes it down like a boss.
So it ended up working out for me. Certainly is a very fine line between looking like a genius and looking like an idiot, because he seemed like he was pretty close to calling, but I ended up getting it through. Like I said, this ante game is every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific time on Live at the Bike. They stream live cash games every Tuesday through Friday from 6 to 10 Pacific time, and the action is definitely very crazy. Thanks for watching this video. If you like what you've seen here, please hit the subscribe button. And of course, you can check out training videos like this over at crushlivepoker.com. And check out Live at the Bike Tuesdays through Fridays from 6 p.m. until 10 p.m. Pacific time. The action is wild and crazy.